And the other thing I wanted to mention too was about air rights. That's another way that developers are trying to get boosts. So it's something that's really important, I think, for faith-based institutions to really understand the value of your air rights if you do decide to sell them, to produce income for yourself, so you don't you don't sell yourself short. So that's just something to be aware of in terms of doing, using community resources to understand what comps might be, so you can get a fair price.
And there was a great point because Bridge Street, another nonprofit, is building a 88-unit condominium site in Bed-Stuy, and we actually are, it's a different church over 3 lots in between where we're building, and we're buying the air rights and building above them and building them a new facility. So again, it's all about being creative and not letting obstacles stop you, because if we saw that the property is land, and we saw the 3 parcels between, we might not have thought about can we build a large, housing building. So it's important just to kind of really be open and challenge what you see and see whether or not, you can build what you really envision.
Usually architects will do a zoning analysis relatively cheaply. They'll go through it and they can be creative. I leave that to their creativity, and they are pretty good. We'll take a look at adjoining lots and things what's used. A lot of times you'll see there'll be a building that's up, it's been up for 40 years, it's a church, and they're not going to use their rights. You may be able to purchase those. And again, you may be, as you were saying, they value the air rights that you have by buildable square footage, and they put a price on that. So if you have the ability to build an additional 40,000 square feet, you would multiply that by a number, and you would be paid for that. The only downside is that property that you own can never be developed above what is currently there.
We've been talking a lot about architects and zoning analysis, and our architect, as you heard earlier, has pneumonia, and who's going to be on the panel in Practicum. But I'd like to ask the panel to also not only talk about the role of the architect a little more, but also maybe now's a good time to talk about the development. And because that's essential to the success of a lot of projects. Who's on your team? So any one of you, and I'd like everyone to speak about it, but anyone jump in first?
Sure. I think that, the development team is absolutely critical to your project. It can make or break it. And I think that can't really be understated, because your architect is really important in terms of understanding a lot of the intricacies. I mean, a small setback can, in terms of architecturally, can literally set back your project another, 18 months or something like that. So I think it's really important to get really skilled professionals. The contractor is really important as well. I mean, the way we do when we put our teams together is we try and identify people that have done similar work and definitely check references. It's like interviewing someone for a job, because that's essentially what you're hiring them to help you build, your project. So you want to make sure that you put people that I think personality chemistry is really important. You're going to be spending a lot of time with the team trying to trying to design it, and also in terms of, I think it's important to get people that are mission-minded, that understand your goal and your vision, because sometimes down the road, if you have high costs, you want to make sure that your final product, if there's value engineering that needs to be done, if there is a redesign that needs to be done, that you can work with the team creatively down the road so that the integrity of your project is maintained while trying to be as efficient as possible.
I would push people up front, and I think some of this was covered in the earlier presentation, to be very clear-eyed and spend real time on the role of your institution. And what the how much of a development role you really have the capacity to play and want to play. Because there are real trade-offs on either side. If you have the capacity to be in the lead in development, you make more of the decisions and you take more of the returns, whether to your institution or to the social goals you're trying to meet. There's just no way around it. But it takes significant institutional time, there's real risk, and if you're not set up to do it, you really run the risk not only of having a project that fails, but having that failure leak back into your organization. You got a personal guarantee on it into your house. So, on the flip side, if you don't believe it makes sense for your institution to kind of become a developer and really start to step up and take on all the risks that entails, there are good partners. They all need something, and so you will lose some of the control, flexibility, profits that are going to flow in that deal. And there are real good times to do both of those things. And so I just think you have to start there. And then if you're in that second category, where you're going to wind up working with a development partner, then there's a lot of negotiating up front to do. And I would do those things before you get an architect, before you get a contract. A lot of people like hire an architect and start to noodle around and go down a path, but then you wind up working with TPC. And so I think if you know you're going to do that, it's great to kind of figure out who that is first. And there are a few different developers and different types of developers that will partner. LISC put a really good manual on the table out there on negotiating the relationship between for-profit and not-for-profit institutions that really will take you through. You get a lawyer. Actually, I should say you can wait to get the architect and the developer. Get the lawyer before you negotiate with your development partner. The one good thing is there's reasons to hire lawyers and pay the bills, but there also are good pro bono lawyers through either Lawyers Alliance for New York or New York Lawyers in the Public Interest who can help you sort of negotiate your interests, because there are just lots of little trade-offs, and you really have to spend the time to think them through and what's most important to you. And I definitely see in a lot of these, when folks do approach partnerships, I don't blame them for wanting everything. It's absolutely right to want everything, but if you're not pretty clear-eyed, so folks will have a piece of property, they don't want to be a developer, they approach a for-profit developer, but they say what we want it to be 100% affordable to people in our congregation, our neighborhood, and we want one floor to be set aside for very affordable childcare, and we want the developer to give us $2 million toward our endowment, and those things aren't all going to happen. And you think, well, it's a very valuable property because there's lots of market rate housing going up around it. You can get some things. It's not, but how you're going to approach those. So I would urge people to kind of be real thoughtful about that decision and about their partners. And then